I'm absolutely supportive of the Ukrainian fight against Putin, his dictatorship, and communism. But my first obligation is always to you, the taxpayer, the American people, the people who elected me to hold this seat for the 18th Congressional District for this period. Hey everybody, I hope that you all had a great week. As always, here's our update on what's been going on in Washington, D.C. this week. First off, great news. My bill, the South Florida Clean Coastal Waters Act, is one step away from becoming law. The east and west coasts of Florida have been treated like the state's own personal septic tank for years. Even the federal government has been on the abuse path, manipulating our waterways, flushing toxins into our communities with no regard for public health. A primary driver of this disaster is the federal patchwork of bad ideas and projects that have manipulated our waterways without regard for our public health, really with disdain for our public health. This bill would require a blueprint for the federal government to finally coordinate a real comprehensive effort to combat harmful algal blooms in our community. It's one more tool in the toolbox to finally end toxic discharges for good, and I'm excited to see it become law. Now, also this week, an update on Ukraine. As you likely know, I've been very vocal in my support of the Ukrainian people and the military in their efforts to fight off Vladimir Putin and his army of thugs. However, this week, the House of Representatives voted on a bill that would give an additional $40 billion, billion with a B, to Ukraine. And I voted no, and this is why. I'm absolutely supportive of the Ukrainian fight against Putin, his dictatorship, and communism. But my first obligation is always to you, the taxpayer, the American people, the people who elected me to hold this seat for the 18th Congressional District for this period. Now, before the vote, I asked everyone, other members of the Foreign Affairs Committee, members of the Armed Services Committee, even the Democrat Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, if the Pentagon had offered any sort of explanation as to what we were buying with our $40 billion. And I don't mean which armaments, which pieces of ordnance. What I mean is, what would we actually achieve with that $40 billion from their assessment? Would it be a Ukrainian victory? Would it be a lower nuclear threat posture? Would it be that we would help the Ukrainian government survive for another couple of months because they have no exports because they're busy fighting a war? He had no answer. Nobody had an answer to that. Now, without a strategic objective, we're just throwing money at the problem, and I don't believe that that is a responsible use of your tax dollars. Now, I know that there are some that share my concerns. In fact, Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana offered an amendment to the Senate version of the bill that would require an inspector general to oversee the money and make sure that there was accountability. That is something that I think would make a big difference. Is it still giving us a strategic plan of attack and what we think $40 billion is buying? No. And until we get to that point, I can't support funding to go to Ukraine, but it is a step in the right direction. Now, on the domestic front, we got more bad news from Joe Biden's broken supply chain, baby formula. Now, as a father of four, I know how incredibly stressful that must be for parents. Now, while my youngest is past the formula stage, I can imagine having to drive in some cases up to 45 minutes to find a store that has formula in stock, coupled with skyrocketing gas prices, increased interest rates on the credit card. It's a recipe for disaster. This week, the president had a meeting allegedly to discuss the shortages, but it was held behind closed doors. Press was not allowed to attend. This is a life and death problem for millions of families, and we deserve to know what the president and his Food and Drug Administration plans to do about it. I'm going to be working with my colleagues in Congress to demand transparency and urge the Biden administration to take immediate action to fix this supply chain disaster, which there are things that Washington, D.C. can be doing. I've spoke about them in length. Unfortunately, Washington, D.C. is not doing those things. It needs to change. Now, lastly, this is National Police Week, and so I want to end with a big thank you to all who serve our community as law enforcement. We are grateful for you. I am grateful for you personally, keeping us safe, especially as crime is surging. It is not an easy job to do. We appreciate you. I appreciate you. I could not imagine the work that you do and the things that you have to deal with. I couldn't say thank you enough for everything that you do. On that note, I hope that you all have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you around. You all take care. Hey everyone, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe. I will be back on YouTube with more exclusive content, so stay tuned.